Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the June Klamath Film member meeting. I'm sure some people thought it would be next week, and that is okay, but we had to move the date forward a week because of Third Thursdays downtown. We are at Growler Guys and online via Zoom. Thank you to everyone who's joining us. Later, our guest tonight is going to be Devin Tau, who is no stranger to Klamath. He's had a film in our film festival every year since 2017, 2018, something like that. And also, he is an LGBTQ filmmaker, and since it is Pride Month, we thought it was appropriate to have him as our guest tonight. So he'll be joining us in probably about 20, 30 minutes. There are a few upcoming things going on, and we'll kind of save the introductions for when our guest comes on so you can also get a sense of who we are. But I also always want to make sure that this is a networking opportunity. So if there's anyone who knows of upcoming projects or anything they want to share or things that you've just been watching lately that you really loved, by all means, welcome to speak up. I will say we've been getting inundated with a lot of requests recently for films that are planning to be shot in Klamath, which is amazing. That after so much footwork, we're finally starting to get some tangible results. As of now, there's a feature film that we'll be shooting in August here in Klamath Falls. There is another feature film that is a Western film that we'll be shooting around Fort Klamath and Crater Lake area in September and October. And there is a third feature film with a very large budget planning to shoot in November and December here in Klamath County. So that's a lot of money and work opportunities coming into Klamath County, which is wonderful. There's also a TV commercial that just finished filming, another TV ad that is planning to film at Lake of the Woods, and at least one film that we know of that's planning to shoot here in 2024. So lots of work opportunities. It may be all hands on deck. Even the Nick Alexander film crew may be doing some side work to help out. And I know you guys have had no shortage of commercial work that you've had going on. So
yeah, as far as opportunities and stuff go, we're actually kind of shifting our focus from going with the interview style that we've been working on, moving more towards a narrative style. And we actually have 4 projects that we'll be shooting within the next month that we're actually in the process of casting on. So we'd love to have any of the Klamath Film members. We've got 3 projects for Subaru and 1 out at the Running Y. I will get details out to you so that you can maybe post it in the group or whatever. And so, yeah, we're moving kind of quick. We got late approval from clients on concepts. And so, Running Y, I believe, is shooting in about 2 weeks. So
okay, there's multiple projects looking at Running Y as well, trying to figure out best location. Yeah, sorry about the stand there. That does come loose, just FYI. Lori, I know your film is submitted. Do you have any other ideas for films, or Shauna, is something you want to chime in with, or anything you've been watching lately that you really loved?
Yeah, well, I have all the footage for a second film, so I'm working on editing that, and have gotten a couple people's viewing of that, and to sort of see sort of how they understand or whatnot, and so based on that, doing some more editing. But might have a final cut. It didn't make the cutoff for KIF this year, but it might be another puzzle with squirrels and puzzle pieces. Yeah,
You're painting yourself into a corner just a little bit here, Lori, with your ongoing film series.
I sure, but I don't mind that. I mean, I definitely can't, directly compete with some of the really big producers and stuff. So definitely recognize, this is a niche that I enjoy, and it's, sort of anybody can watch it, and it has sort of underlying themes of kindness, friendship, and silliness, and maybe a little bit of orneriness as well.
You have definitely created your own subgenre of movie making. So
yeah, and I'm totally cool with that. If anybody else wants to join, that'd be awesome as well. But yeah, no, it was just something I think creating something that brings more kindness and thoughtfulness along that lines is something I want to put out into the world, and so that's also why I'm enjoying what I'm doing.
Mhm.
Lori, I'm so excited that you took the plunge to go into actually doing filmmaking.
Oh,
Back in the early years, you were like around all the time, but hadn't
well, I
taken your own yet.
yeah, no, it's actually sort of funny when you think about uh my involvement with Klamath Film, because my first meeting I actually talked to two of the members more about theater performances in the Ross Raglan than film,
Right.
and sort of got started there, and then I've been volunteering and stuff, and I really I liked being a judge for KIF because watching a lot of films and stuff, but I did notice that as I was watching it, I'd be, thinking, oh, well, that wasn't a good edit, or they should have like changed this, or they should have did that, or I like this filmmaker a little bit better because they do XYZ versus this other person who does this. And so it was like, it was going beyond actually what I needed to do for judging for KIF. And but that's also like helped me doing my own films because it's um just a different perspective on like the outcome that you want, and then making sure that the small details line up to that.
Well said. Pardon me while I finish chewing. Um, last night I was in Ashland for the monthly Cameras and Cocktails event. It was also the SOU Student Film Festival night. And I met someone who just recently moved to the area who is starting a exotic animal ranch for filmmakers. So if anyone, for whatever reason, needs a live rhinoceros or elephant or other unusual animals, there is now a company in the Ashland area with a large ranch. They're kind of making their own version of wildlife safari, but with animals that are trained to be on film. So you may want to pass along to Nick if for some reason you ever need an elephant to show up in front of like Sky Lakes Medical Center.
I'll be writing an elephant into a script here.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing where you actually design the project around
Exactly.
the animal. Yeah.
So I have contact information if anyone does need an exotic animal in any film production. Some other things upcoming. Klamath Film is going to be doing a series of films in the park outside this summer. We've acquired a large projector and screen, and the plan right now is because of the midges, we're thinking Steen Sports Park, not Veterans or Moore Park. And so we will have dates for that soon, but probably July and August, we'll be doing some family-friendly films outside. I also wanted to bring to everyone's attention Puppeteers for Fears, which if you came to our film festival last year, we had a documentary about this group based in Ashland. They're a collective of punk rock guys who also love crazy puppets. And they've created Cthulhu the Musical, which just by name alone is a must-see. And they are going on tour with it. They will be performing in Klamath one night only, Saturday, August 12th at the Linkville Playhouse. For anyone who's here, if you want to scan a QR, there are tickets available now. Limited seating, I already got my tickets because I am not missing this. But if you took the H.P. Lovecraft world with puppets and then added a punk band over the top of it, you get Cthulhu the Musical presented by Puppeteers for Fears. So highly recommend. The documentary that was all about it last year took second place as Best Southern Short in our film festival. That was a film made by Ross Williams, who's been in our festival several times over. So August 12th, Josh and possibly one of the Puppeteers will also be guests at the upcoming KCC Comic-Con, which I organized. That'll be Saturday, July 15th at KCC. So they're going to be talking about live puppeteering and their show and what's coming to Klamath in August. So highly recommend Cthulhu the Musical if you can make it. Lori, I think this is right up your alley. along with a whole bunch of other regulars in our little circle. It's kind of a must-see thing. One night only. I don't know if it'll ever come back to Klamath again.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Outside of that, has anyone just recently checked out any sort of films or TV shows that they're really enjoying?
The last thing I saw was Haig with Nicolas Cage.
It's a good one. Shot in Oregon.
Beautiful cinematography. I love the shots.
Very odd concept because it seemed like it should have been almost like a Fight Club vibe to it, or like a vigilante film, but it's vigilanteism using food. Which is because the story structure is almost like a Death Wish style approach,
John Wick.
or a John Wick vibe, but he's cooking instead of shooting everyone.
Typical Nicolas Cage crazy.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Highly recommend for those who haven't seen it yet. It was shot in Portland. A friend of Klamath Film, Brian Sutherland, has a small role in that film. For those who enjoyed One Dead Dog at our 2020 Film Fest, he was one of the leads in that film, and he appears in Pig. I just finished binging on HBO the 3 seasons of a show that was on TNT years ago called The Last Ship. I randomly came across it, and it was about a Navy ship that's out at sea when a global pandemic hits, and they have the cure on the ship, or they're trying to develop the cure, and everyone's trying to steal it from them. It was made pre-COVID-19, but watching it, there was a whole lot of COVID-19 themes in it. So I was like, I need to keep watching this for just see how accurate they got for the future. So some of it was over the top cheesy because, well, it was produced by Michael Bay, so very explodey, and dialogue was Michael Bay-esque, but it was interesting to see something created around 2014 talking about a global pandemic and all of the repercussions that would happen around the world of it. So I found it intriguing in that respect with what we just recently lived through. So if we're not having any others, if you can grab these mics and move them down. I think everyone else is thinking next week is when we're gonna have our meeting. Which is okay. It can be a smaller group.
Has anybody in this?
By the way, Nick, I'm Brian.
Jerry.
Sure, so you're with Nick.
Yes.
So, production.
Yep.
Just I'll give you a few of these. We have an Airbnb in town.
Okay.
Where we actually hosted, the entire film cast and crew.
Mhm.
Short film we shot here in 2018. And so we love having filmmakers.
Yep.
Do you ever need a place? And I'll give you some as well.
Yep, and we have been getting questions from some of our traveling filmmakers for the film festival. If there was if there was Airbnbs that they could possibly stay at, because I do realize for folks coming from Portland or whatever, it is a huge investment for them to come down to Klamath, spend 3 or 4 days with us, hotel rooms, food, to participate in our film festival. So I get it when people are like, I can't make it if they don't have the cash for it. But an Airbnb would be a huge help if they could like group.
Yeah, we can host generally 9, but we can do, you know, if people want to stay guerrilla style, we can go to 15.
Available for filming in as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, we love being around film people, and don't go by if you happen to go online and check it out. Don't, you know, talk to us about potential discounts.
Yeah, you won't see the discounts.
Yeah, we'll arrange that with you ahead of time, as we talked to Kurt with the
Mhm.
productions that are coming up. We'd love to have people around. We had so much fun hosting. I think we had 12 or 14 there that time, and that was before we had expanded some of the living spaces and things. So, and we had a great time, you know, film crew, and it just becomes a family even over a 3-day weekend. So we'd love to host people.
We're going to have some really difficult choices for the film festival this year. We got fewer submissions than we normally get, slightly under, but I'm guessing it's a result of the pandemic because Oregon stepped up its quality this year in terms of film production. Clearly, people had more time at home to really dig into a script and really get into editing and cinematography because we got a lot of animation submitted this year, which is wonderful. But, you know, time consuming. And just in general, the overall quality, this is the best field that I've ever seen that we've had to pick from. So normally we have 3 tiers of judging that happens. So our initial screeners right now, we're going through all the films and scoring everything. And Lori, you know this all too well. And then we have a whole second group that is our selection committee after we trim the lowest scoring, say 20 films off from those submissions. And usually it's pretty obvious which ones get trimmed out at the start. So it makes it relatively easy. And then the selection committee usually spends about 6 to 7 hours on a Zoom call debating every film to figure out what actually goes into the festival. This year, 77 submissions and probably 70 of them are festival quality. So it's a great problem to have, but we may have a very long selection process ahead of us to try to figure out how we shoehorn 70 films into about 30 to 35 film slots for the festival. We may have to do just like an on-demand only portion because we got so many good films this year and so many of them are on par. Like usually you get a sense of what are the very top tier, really, really good films. And then there's the mid tier where we can debate like, okay, does this one fit or this one fit versus, and this time around, it's like everything was good. So I don't know what we're going to do, but I'm sure we will figure it out somehow. So we just had another guest join. Is that Devin coming in or is that another one of our guests? It just shows up as no sweat. NOSWE, hello.
Well, I'm not no sway, but this is Shauna. I can
Oh.
finally chime in because I'm finally home. I was just listening in my car on speakerphone.
No,
So
no
anyway.
worries. Thank you, Shauna, for joining us. Appreciate it. You were with us a couple months ago too, right?
Yeah, and then it got like I work in the school system. I'm a speech therapist, and the end of the year is so busy, so
Crazy,
busy.
yeah.
The past couple of months, I've been
Are you
exhausted.
the one that we assigned some homework to for international films?
Yeah, I probably. Yeah, I think so. I think I was supposed to watch
Micmacs, yes, Micmacs by Jean-Pierre Jeunet.
Yeah, and I haven't done that yet. So I guess I'll get on that. No, I'll do it by
Well,
next time.
You should have a couple months vacation coming up in the next week or two, right?
Yeah,
So
oh my God, it'll be a lot easier to do it. Like way easier.
yeah, I was trying to remember the name of that individual, and I was like, man, I know we assigned homework to someone that they had to watch a foreign film.
I have watched a couple others, but like watched one by I'm gonna butcher her name. Agnes Varda. Is that how you say her name? She's French, I think. Watched a couple of her films, are really good. And I watched one film by a Czech woman called no, I can't remember it. I'll remember it later, of course. But anyway, so I've watched a couple others, kind of like
Okay.
enjoying the 70s international films.
Mhm.
That's
Well,
about it.
based on the feedback that you gave us a couple months ago, do take the time to track down Micmacs and check it out. I think you will thoroughly enjoy it.
Yeah, definitely. I found it a streaming. I just have to rent it, but I'll have time out of the summer break.
Quick question
Oh.
for everybody. What is the best thing you've seen this year? Either TV or film?
Babylon.
Babylon was good. It bombed in the box office, but I thought it was really good.
Their marketing campaign was awful.
Yeah. If anyone loves old silent era film or just golden age of Hollywood, Babylon is a must see. Ryan, you got something that you've surprised you or you really enjoyed?
We don't generally watch a lot of series, but it got recommended to us and we really enjoyed Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Yeah, excellent, really excellent series.
Throwback early 60s.
Yeah, but it's the themes in it are so pertinent to right now. That's what makes it so spectacular. And of course the acting and dialogue and stuff is great. A couple of times it gets a little overwhelming with the characters all talking at once, sort of.
Right.
But he got past that and just finished it. This was great.
And it does help too that that one dance that came out of one episode went super viral, and suddenly everyone had to be doing that dance on TikTok and YouTube Shorts. I'm blanking on the artist's name, but the like that one, like suddenly for like 2 months, that was all that TikTok was just people doing the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel dance over and over again. I've mentioned it before, or unless not Lainey, unless you have something that you really enjoyed that you want to mention.
Nothing is coming to mind.
I've mentioned it previously, but I'm a sucker for animation. I don't have the patience to actually make animation, but I love watching animation because I appreciate the lengthy process that goes into making it. And this was nominated for Best Feature Animated Film last year. It did not win, but if you get Showtime on demand, please go check out the film Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. It's a film that is animated that's made to not look animated. It's a very simple story of a sentient shell with shoes named Marcel that lives with his grandma in an Airbnb, and a filmmaker moves in and befriends Marcel and decides to make a documentary about this shell that he can talk to, and just kind of makes a documentary about the shell's life and how he does things in this house while the rest of the family ended up in a suitcase and was taken away through no fault of their own, and how these two shells are surviving in the house. It's what's really fascinating about it is that it's stop motion animation interacting with live actors, and it looks absolutely seamless. So there was some CG that had to be done on it, but largely it's brilliant stop motion animation on very simple objects. And it's such a wholesome, friendly film in terms of the story arc. It will give you all of the feels, but it's really well done. That's why it was Oscar Academy Award nominated. And it didn't get a lot of distribution or exposure. Not a lot of people know about it.
It's a feature.
It's a feature film. It's a short feature. It's maybe about an hour, 15 hour and 20-ish. But it is available on demand right now on Showtime or some streaming services, I'm sure. If you get a chance, and Lori, especially, if you haven't seen this yet, you need to, with all of your stop motion work, you will love Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. Wayne or Shauna or Lori, anything you've seen this year that just blew you away, that was far and away the best thing you've seen on TV or film?
If no one else wants to share, I finally saw this Australian film called The Picnic at Hanging Rock, or Picnic at Hanging Rock. It was really, really good. Has anyone else seen that?
Not yet.
It was really good. So that's all I can say about it.
Lori or Wayne, do you have a favorite film or TV show of 2023 so far?
I mean, it was technically shot and made before 2023, but the Russian Doll, that TV show, was just sort of a really interesting psychological sort of modern day Groundhog's Day in a way, but like a sort of a changing Groundhog's Day. It was an interesting show to watch.
Wayne said he watched an old Batman film again recently. Is that Michael Keaton Batman, or going back to the 1960s Batman or the 1940s Batman?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, if we're talking about like this year, like stuff from this year, I don't think it started this year, but Somebody Somewhere, that's definitely a newer TV show.
Okay.
With Bridget Everett. She's like a singer. It's on HBO Max.
Okay.
Anyway, that one's really good too. It's really, really funny. If you are okay with bathroom humor, you should be okay with bathroom humor and lots of swearing. But if you're okay with that, it's really funny and heartwarming.
Wonderful. And I see our director is joining us. Give it a second for Cassidy to chime in. Hey, Cassidy, are you online?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We were just
Hello.
going around discussing our favorite film or TV show that we've seen this year.
Awesome. Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Yeah, my headphones aren't working, so I had to disconnect from them. Favorite? Oof, that's a good question. Uh, I mean, Ted Lasso obviously comes to mind. I'm sure that's been answered. So that
Are we going to get a spinoff? Is the next question, I guess, because they wrapped up every storyline very well. So that's probably it for Ted Lasso.
Yeah, I really do think they're teasing the spinoff though, for sure, but I think the major reason, like I think Apple will totally pursue doing a spinoff because it would probably make them a lot of money, but without Jason Sudeikis, I probably won't watch it. So I don't think it'll have Jason in it. So I'm not interested.
I mean, I would be oddly intrigued in a show that follows around Coach Beard without Ted Lasso to see what weird antics that guy gets into without his rock no longer there to keep him stable.
Sure, sure. Yeah. And there's always the question of was that like a dream sequence of Beard getting married and stuff at the end? Because then Ted wakes up like on the plane right after. So I don't know if he was actually married. I don't know if that's a healthy relationship to be in. I want the best for Beard. It didn't seem great, but whatever makes him happy.
So Cassidy, I brought up earlier our films in the park. Do we have dates on that yet, or still TBD?
Still TBD. It's looking like basically in August. Like 4 days in August.
Okay. For those who come out to the Comic-Con at KCC this summer, also Klamath Film will be doing a film festival at that of films that we've shown at past years' KIFs. Cassidy, at some point, you and I need to sit down and figure out what we're actually going to show for that.
Yeah, for sure.
Otherwise, we have a lot of films pending that are looking to come here, which is wonderful. Sorry, don't mind me while I'm belching into the microphone. I know, Jared, you had some projects upcoming, but they're more commercial projects, but looking at more creatives. So, Wayne, since you joined late, Nick Alexander Films is going to be doing some more projects that require actors. So, Wayne's already familiar because he acted in Duplicity, but if you have other projects of interest, there's one actor right there that's always a go-to for you.
Awesome. Yeah, we got 4 projects coming up that we're shooting over the next 3 to 4 weeks, I believe. I'm still waiting on shooting schedules, but yeah, I'm looking for, I want to say like 17 actors across these 4 projects.
Okay. We have several amidst Klamath Film. So Cassie, we may want to compile a blast email that goes out to active members saying upcoming work opportunities and just kind of listing out Nick's stuff and some of the other projects that we're aware of that are upcoming.
Yeah, that would be great if you just want to send details out on everything. I mean, Nick Alexander Films is usually pretty good about letting us know things that are coming up. So yeah, always feel free to email and we can shoot out to our membership what's going on.
Well, otherwise, we're just kind of waiting for Devin to get here at any moment. Did he give you a timeline or did you just tell him 6:30-ish?
Yeah, he said 7 would work for him. So
Oh, okay.
probably gonna get here on 7.
Okay. Waste a little bit more time then. Got it. Let's see here. Projects that we have been working on. I know, Brian, are we dragging you back into film after you were trying to get yourself out, or?
Still pretty much out.
Okay.
I had, the only thing that was still floating around out there was the documentary on the dam removal.
Mhm.
And was out in front of a potential investor for a while and didn't pan out from them.
Okay. I know Shane Anderson is working on a documentary about that. He's been documenting it, and he's a regular in our film festival as well. He's won our best film award the last 2 years in a row. So we'll see if he gets the trifecta this year. He does have a film in, but as I said earlier, our competition this year is particularly stiff. So we'll see how things go. But that guy always makes really amazing films. Really amazing films about fish. Just films about fish over and over again, but they're always fantastic. So
Yeah, I'm excited to see how everything shakes out with our feature films and all the different categories. And yeah, it is stiff competition. There's no like clear winners, I feel like, with anything. So it'll be fun.
yeah.
What's the schedule, like what's the days and time?
Oh, sure. September 22nd through the 24th is going to be the festival this year. We're still planning out several options for what we're going to do for our opening night event. And we are planning to do some other things during the day on Friday beforehand. We've been discussing possibly doing some location scout tours for some of our traveling filmmakers, and maybe a couple other activities. That weekend also ties in with Oktoberfest at Running White Ranch. So we're looking at possibly partnering with that, but we haven't yet fully solidified all of the plans just yet. We will still have Saturday and Sunday at the Ross Raglan Theater, with Saturday being all of our feature films, Sunday being all of our shorts. Then we will end with our awards ceremony at the end, which for the third or fourth year in a row, our awards will be done by the Southern Cascade Woodcrafters Guild, which is always a fun little add-on for those that have seen it. Getting custom carved trophies that are specific to the winning film is something that has been a huge hit with the filmmakers. So I just had a meeting with them the other day. They're also going to be helping out at Comic-Con too. They're going to be in our apprenticeship center at KCC doing superhero jigsaw puzzle kits. So kids can pick from one of 4 superhero emblems, paint their superhero logo, and then cut out their own wooden jigsaw puzzle as one of the arts and crafts things we'll be able to do at Comic-Con. So one of many activities that we'll have at Comic-Con that should be super fun. So I don't know, Cassie, am I missing anything as far as announcements or things that you want to touch on?
No, you know, the film camp, if anyone knows any kids looking to learn how to make some films, that'll be the end of next month, which will be really fun over at KCC too. So yeah, it should be a great summer filled with a lot of fun things going on.
Thank you for that. Yeah. The film camp this year will be July 24th through the 28th at KCC. Limited to 20 kids. Registration is free. We will cover lunch for them the entire day and as well. Very intensive 5-day film camp. And at the end of it, we all get to make a film project together, and then kids can go make their own project. And if they do make their own project, it'll end up in the film festival in September. So if you know of middle school or high school kids in the area that have an interest in film, we will have an Eventbrite registration site up very soon for that. So this will be our 3rd year teaching that. First year we did it at Ross Raglan. Last year we did it at KCC. Typically out of about 17 to 20 kids participating, we get maybe 4 to 5 films made. But what's incredible and incredibly frustrating is that every year there's one kid that has barely picked up a camera before they walk through the door. And after 5 days, they make the most incredible film that just would have taken me a decade of practice to get to that skill level. I don't want anyone to see the early projects I made when I was just dabbling. And yet for their first time out, they're making absolutely incredible films. There's always one kid every year that just goes above and beyond making something amazingly beautiful. And so I hope that trend continues, because we've gotten at least 3 really incredible kids from films from first time teen filmmakers. So hopefully we'll be able to continue that for some time. It's a very oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Shauna.
Oh, okay. I was just going to ask if at some point, maybe even online on the Facebook page, if there's any like volunteer opportunities for the film festival or the films in the park or anything you guys are doing, like would love to hear about them because I'm trying to get more involved in supporting community events and stuff. So yeah, just
Wonderful.
that
Yeah,
information.
Cassidy is the point person for that, and we absolutely can use your help. We hit up Lori often for help. Lori gets voluntold to help at a lot of events. So, but there is actually an opportunity upcoming soon where we could use an extra set of hands, and that is the first Saturday in July, which I believe is July 1st. Let me check real quick. Yes, July 1st, Saturday at 2:00. The Southern Cascade Woodcrafters Guild, the group that makes all of our trophies every year, they're having their monthly meeting, but it's kind of a work meeting. These are a lot of retired folks who are master craftsmen, but at this point have bad backs and are not in the best of shape. And they need to move a bunch of wood out of their facility and transport things. So I'm volunteering to show up with some work gloves, maybe a mower and whatnot to kind of help out and chip in because they do so much for us year in, year out. I think it's really important that Klamath Film as an organization, that we in turn try to help them out some. So if anyone is available Saturday, July 1st, for maybe just an hour or two, it'll be at Mount Lackey Community Church, kind of down by Midland. 2:00, they're going to have a very brief meeting and then a work session, quite literal work to relocate some things and do some much needed maintenance on their facility. If anyone associated with Klamath Film could help out with that, especially if anyone has a kid that needs community service to graduate or just community service in general for other reasons, we sure could use the help and would greatly, greatly appreciate it. I'll probably send an email out about it, but Southern Cascade Woodcrafters Guild does a lot for us. We would like to do something for them in turn. So I will be there and hopefully some others can too.
Thanks for sharing about that. We'll try to be there. I'll try to bring one or two of my young strapping stepsons.
Thanks, Shauna. And thanks for asking about that. Yeah, we're always looking for volunteers with things like that. So super appreciate your interest in it. And yeah, I'll be there on July 1st also. I have it on my calendar. So should be a fun time. And I'll bring my strapping husband voluntold, telling him to do everything always. So yeah, it'll be a fun day.
And for those who came in late, I want to reemphasize something else. Cthulhu the Musical is coming to Klamath Falls. Anytime I say that name, usually one or two people turn around and go, "What? I want to go to there." Last year we had a documentary in the film festival called I'm blanking on the exact name, but it was about this group in Ashland called Puppeteers for Fears. And it's a collective of punk rockers, actors, and puppeteers that created Cthulhu the Musical, and they've taken it on the road. The documentary took second place for Best Southern Short in our festival last year, and they're putting together a new tour. They're going out on the road, and I have begged and pleaded for them to do one performance in Klamath Falls. So on Saturday, August 12th at the Linkville Playhouse at 7:00, Puppeteers for Fears will be presenting Cthulhu the Musical. Tickets are on sale now. Limited seating because the Linkville only has about 120 seats. So get your tickets now. If anyone here wants to scan, there's a QR code for that. But there's also a Facebook group for it and everything else. So look up Puppeteers for Fears, Cthulhu the Musical. If you love raunchy humor and punk rock and puppetry, you will want to check this out. So I ran into Josh Gross, the organizer of it, last night at Cameras and Cocktails out in Ashland, and he passed me some posters I'll be putting up around town for it. And Josh will be one of our speakers at the KCC Comic-Con as well. So August 12th, if you can, it should be a very, very, very funny show.
That sounds amazing, and I'm really glad you mentioned it because I'm gonna try to get tickets pretty soon because it sounds just phenomenal.
It hits all the buttons. If you are a fan of the whole H.P. Lovecraft world making, combined with puppetry and a live band in really raunchy humor, it's a one night only affair that you need to check out, Shauna. So Puppeteers for Fears, Cthulhu the Musical. Anyone else have any upcoming events or activities that they want to mention? Well, we still got about 5 minutes or so before our guest tonight joins us.
Sorry, I missed the introductions to who all is there in person with you, Kurt.
I usually hold off on the intros until our guest joins so they get a sense of who we are as well.
Good idea, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming out tonight, y'all. Good to see you there. I'm stuck at the desk, but happy to be here virtually. So,
we
Kurt, do
normally-
you know what
yeah.
that UK production, what they're filming for?
All I know is that they are coming through for 2 days and they want to do interview segments. They've not been specific on what the production is, but that's yet another film that wants to shoot here that I didn't mention before. So we've had just this influx of out of town film productions that want to come to Klamath County, which is incredible. Something we've been pushing for years, and now it's kind of all hitting all at once. So there's a production company called Passion Pictures, and they largely do documentary films. And they are looking to film either in the southeast area of Klamath or the northwest area of Klamath, looking for a cabin space to do some interviews as well as kind of some walk around stuff. So we're still trying to find a cabin. If people have an idea of a cabin area, I don't know if they want logs specifically, but something that looks kind of rustic, Western, out in the woodsy vibe. We've sent them to Lake of the Woods. We've sent them to Pelican Point. We sent them to Aspen. I'm starting to run out of cabin areas. So if people know of someone who owns a cabin that is willing to host a film crew for a night and also have filmed in, please let myself or Cassidy know immediately because they want to film in the next couple of weeks. So we really need to lock that down very, very soon. Shauna, Lori, or Wayne, do you have any leads on cabins in the area that we might be able to hit up?
You might have something more.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That would be wonderful.
No, I'm kind of racking my brain, but I don't have any connections. I kind of wish I did, because I would like to know somebody who has a cabin.
Same,
Yeah.
Shauna.
I thought Lake of the Woods was going to work great for them, but they said no to that. So I don't know, maybe the price was too high or something. I don't have a lot of details on that production. I don't have a lot of details either on the Western that's going to be shooting around Fort Klamath, outside of the fact that they've been wanting extras who are experts with horses. So if you know anyone who's really good on a horse, there's acting opportunities coming up this fall for a feature film. Hey, there's our guest. Hey, Devin.
Hey, Kurt.
Hello, sir. Familiar face from our festival for many years. Thank you so much for being here and joining us.
Oh, you bet. I'm actually wearing my 2021
Oh,
festival shirt here.
well,
Represent.
you have not only been one of the most ardent contributors to our festival for many years, but also one of our most loyal supporters, and we greatly appreciate you coming back year after year.
Well, I'm hoping 2023 will be another year.
Yep, half sisters. Well, we'll get into talking about that and some of your other work, but we always hold off on doing our introductions until our guest arrives so that you also get a sense of who you're talking to. So we'll go around and quickly do introductions, and we'll get into kind of some of your background, how you got into film, and some of your projects and whatnot. So first of all, we'll go around and do intros. So hi, obviously you know me. I'm Kurt Lidke. I'm board chair of Klamath Film. My day job is videographer for Klamath Community College. I worked in Hollywood for about 12 years. I'm a commercial drone pilot for both aerial and underwater. Yeah, huge film buff, giant film nerd. So let's go around. Shauna, why don't you introduce yourself? Shauna, are you there?
Yes, sometimes it just takes me a moment to find the mute button.
The unmute button. Yeah, sure, no problem.
I'm Shauna, and I'm a speech therapist. I don't have any experience in the film industry. I just think film is really, really cool, and I've been getting into it more. So I don't know. I just think it's really awesome that we have an independent film festival here, and like that's really what a cool thing to have like here in Klamath Falls. So I'm just excited to be a part of this group.
Fantastic. And Lori, I'm sure you know Devin very well from all of your work at the festival, but go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Lori. It's good to see you again, Devin. Yeah, I've been a volunteer at KIF and I've talked to you plenty of times, probably too many questions. But it's always a delight to talk with you and learn and hear from you because it's inspiring. But yeah, I really like film. Been a Klamath Film member for several years, volunteer. Last couple of years, I've been doing some stop motion, and last year had Squirrely puzzling in the Klamath Film um, Independent Film Festival, and submitted another stop motion this year. So see if that one gets in.
Terrific. And Wayne, you've been around our festival enough. You probably know Devin as well, but go ahead and introduce yourself, please. Or unless you don't have a mic, I know you've been posting in the chat room. If you don't have a mic, it's okay. I can do your intro for you, but give me a quick heads up in the chat and let me know. Or we'll come back to you. Cassidy.
Yeah, hey Devin, thanks so much for being here today. Big fan of your work from the side, but excited to hopefully meet you in September if you can make it down and everything. But yeah, I've been a big fan of your work, but started as the director last year, kind of right before the film festival, and was a whirlwind till then. But love film. I'm really into like nature and outdoor documentaries, so I love to use On Top and everything. And actually I got to meet Stacy Rice, the other, I guess it was in January that we actually formally met, but because we're both on the Oregon Wild board. So she's wonderful and amazing, and so big fan of her as well. But anyway, so grateful to you to be here today. So thank you so much for spending your evening with us. We're so excited to have you. But yeah.
And Jared?
Hey, I'm Jared. I'm a cinematographer and editor for the local office of Nick Alexander Films. Spent about 10 years in broadcast TV, 6 years as marketing director for a beer distributor, and managed their sign shop and promotions. Film's my whole world. I've loved it since I was a kid. I think I saw the making of Star Wars before I ever saw Star Wars, and I've been hooked ever since. And so it never really leaves my brain. I'm always thinking about it, and just happy to be here. I'm happy to have you here as well.
And Brian?
Hey, Devin. Been a while. How you doing? Brian Ellis, for those who don't know, did a lot of stuff with Klamath Film in the past years, and decided to make a career change. So now I teach high school to a bunch of amazing young kids, and kind of have moved away from filmmaking side of things, but I still love watching films and TV and things like that. So and just had heard Devin was going to be in, so I made an appearance.
And then also Lainey stepped out, but you want to introduce Lainey for us on her behalf?
She's worked with Klamath Film as well in the past and stuff. So
okay. And then I see Wayne posted in the chat. He said he's a late bloomer who got started acting on basically a dare. He only started acting about 23 years ago, and he's been involved in about 40 productions. He's an actor who loves acting, and who's also produced and directed and just enjoys being an actor. So Devin, that's our crew for tonight. We changed the dates a little bit, so a little smaller crew than we normally get, but that's okay. So now that you've gotten to know us, let's get to know about you. Let's get a little bit of your backstory and how you ended up becoming a filmmaker.
Yeah, so thanks everyone for coming and for inviting me. I love talking about film, so anytime you need somebody to speak, let me know. I'll be there. But my name is Devin Tau. I'm a gay Asian American immigrant filmmaker. Actually, immigrated when I was 8 from Taiwan to the States. Didn't speak a word of English, and the funny thing was because my parents are immigrants, they had their own business, and they had a VHS, mom and pop VHS video rental store. So I actually grew up rewinding VHS tapes and like pulling, things off the shelves. And Little did I know, 40 years later that I'd go to film school and then do 10 shorts and, you know, have my third feature done and then having done, 50 plus corporate promo stuff. So, yeah, it's, filmmaking is my third career. I was, went to business school at Berkeley, worked in corporate finance, and I was a clothing buyer. And, thank goodness I had that midlife crisis 8 years ago. That prompted the career change to film school, and then now I get to. I think it's somewhat similar to what Wayne said. I love playing, and filmmaking is playing for me. Yeah. So, thank you.
So that for some reason, what's chiming into my head is the film Wayne's World, when the Tia Carrera character says that she learned English by watching the Police Academy movies.
So I learned English watching reruns. So it was like Bewitched, um, Gilligan's Island, for real. Like I think there was one more that I watched. A tiny bit of Star Trek. That wasn't a huge fan, but it was great to have George Takei kind of as a role model because there weren't really any Asian actors in roles that weren't dry cleaners or
Giant
Chinese restaurant
stereotypes. Yeah.
Chinese restaurant owners. So yeah, it was just pretty cool to eventually, identifying him and then going to the press and then getting him and then going to work with him to do the narration. So yeah, it's definitely a dream come true.
That's got to be so surreal, watching someone as a kid and learning how to speak based off of watching him. And then you become a filmmaker and you get to work with the person that you learned English from.
Yeah, that's why sometimes I talk like a Valley girl because of that. Yeah. But no, it's very humbling for sure. It's allowed me to kind of play both sides as a director of narrative and documentary films. I think historically people really didn't do both genres, but now, similar to how people are more kind of gender and sexually fluid, from like an orientation perspective, I think filmmakers and storytellers were a lot more nimble. And at the end of the day, it's really all about how do you tell the best story, right? So with docs, it's about how do you get non-actors to tell their story? So how do you make them feel secure? How do you remove their vulnerabilities? How do you create, this environment with a small set, with a small crew, and hopefully they cry on camera, which is like always my goal. And then doing narratives, it's about having a really high acting standard, meaning like the talent needs to appear that they're actually not actors, right? If I could tell they're acting, or if anyone can tell they're acting, then they've really failed at portraying the characters. It's made me raise my standards for narrative talent because I always like, it doesn't really matter if it's a doc or a narrative. I'm still looking on a screen, still looking at their performances, and I want the audience to believe like they're not acting. So I found kind of doing both genres to be really complementary to each other, and it's also just a really, really fun. And they have their pros and cons for sure.
And you've been in the short time that you've been a filmmaker, well, I mean, 8 years is not a short time, I guess, but in grand perspective, you've also had a really diverse approach to the films that you've made. Like you've made, I got introduced to you through, was it, I think it was called Unicorn, right? And then after that, there was an Evening at Nighthawks, or I'm blanking on the name. What?
Yeah. So we'll go back to 2017 with my first year at KIF. It was Eve, the prologue, which is a sci-fi short.
Okay. Yeah.
5 minutes. It has Hannah, our Lloyd from Grimm, who played the girl, seasons 5 and 6. Then it was Unicorn, then Malignant.
Oh, okay.
So Unicorn was a LGBTQ short drama. It's like a adult coming of age story. Malignant was a thriller. And then Alice and Nighthawk was the dance film, so silent.
Right.
It's all modern dance and cronking and yeah, some like crazy stuff. And then Who's on Top? I submitted
Mhm.
that, which is the doc, the LGBTQ doc about climbing mountains. And then during that time, I also did another feature doc called The Road Home. It's about people on probation and parole. That one, I don't know if I'll submit it. I'm happy to submit it. I don't know if you want to watch it or program it, but it was funded by the National Institute of Corrections and the Interstate Commission for Adult Offender Supervision. So it's kind of a branded doc piece to explain their program. But it was like a 2-year project. It paid really well. It helped pay for Half Sisters, which was great.
Mhm.
And I got to kind of go all over the country making a documentary, which was with someone else paying. So that was really
Right.
amazing.
If it's on someone else's dime, it's a great experience. So
It's amazing, yeah. And then we shot Half Sisters November 2021
Mhm.
and got distribution in end of 2022, and we're releasing it this year.
And then Half Sisters is your newest film, a feature film that taps into the horror genre, which is something you hadn't done previously. So kind of nice to be jumping to all sorts of. No, you're not necessarily carving your own niche. You're bouncing to different genres with each film, which I find really fascinating. That you have the range to be able to pursue stories that like some filmmakers do the same film over and over again, and that's fine. Like Michael Bay makes Michael Bay films. And for people who like Michael Bay explodey films, you can go see it and you know exactly what you're going to expect, right? Devin Tau, every year we're going to get something totally different. So submitted to KIF year in, year out, which is shows your range, which is great.
If Michael called me, I would happy to make a big expensive film with a lot of things going up. Michael, call me. But yeah, so my theory or my idea is that if I could show range, then maybe that someone else will consider me to hire to just direct. Because up until now, I've directed and produced my own films, and like to really just direct someday and not have to produce also. And so my strategy is to show that I can do different genres. So then I'm not pigeonholed to say, oh, he's just the LGBTQ mountaineering guy, or oh, he's only the thriller / sci-fi / LGBTQ drama / LGBTQ mountaineering / nonprofit promo guy.
And we also need to mention that we finally got you off the schneid because you've been involved in our film festival as long as anybody has been involved in the Klamath Independent Film Fest as a submitter, and you finally won an award. Damn it! It took a few years, but you did take Best Northern Feature for Who's on Top.
Better late than never. Yeah, I'm hoping Half Sisters will be considered for for that award again. But yeah, no, I love telling stories. I don't like telling the same story over and over again. What I do love is telling different stories, telling them in a different way, challenging myself to be able to lift people up and shed a spotlight on them. And hopefully it looks beautiful and people like watching it. And if they don't, don't tell me.
And I did, and I'll stop dominating the conversation, but I will just say I really loved the trophy that you got because the Woodcrafters included a little rainbow flag to stick into the box at the top at the summit of the mountain. I thought that was a very cute add-on that they came up with.
Yeah, I actually use it every day. I we use Nespresso capsules at home, the little one, the original. So that's like a repository for us to put like, so every day I open it up and take out my capsules and get to enjoy that wonderful trophy. So it's it's awesome. So thanks for
I appreciate when awards can be practical and not just something that hangs on the wall or ends up in the closet.
Oh, the money was great too. Don't forget that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm happy. Yeah. So thank you to the woodmakers.
Yep. So Southern Cascade Woodcrafters Guild.
Woodcrafters Guild.
Yep. So tell us about Half Sisters, and then we'll kind of open up to others that may have questions for you as well. But I've had a chance to watch Half Sisters so far. I'm not sure if all of our other screeners were in the process of determining selections this year. So for those who haven't seen it, kind of give us the background.
Well, first and foremost, I packed my bags. I'm ready to come in September. So hopefully you guys will program it. Secondly, I need more t-shirts to add to my collection. So Half Sisters is my first narrative feature. Third feature overall, but first narrative. And it's about two estranged sisters who reunite at their grandmother's house. And while they're there fishing for the $1 million inheritance check, they're attacked by intruders. So think of The Game. I don't remember that movie with Michael Douglas.
Yep.
And Sean Penn.
Penn.
Think of like a female-led version of The Game meets Get Out. So that was kind of like, but like at hardly any money. With very, very low budget. So I found the script after my team and I would looked at like 150 scripts. Half Sisters was kind of elevated up at one point, and it was very different when it first started. Ended up optioning and then buying it, working with the original writer. And then fast forward a couple more writers later, we developed it into Half Sisters, which is what the movie was that you saw, or that some of you will see. And it has some themes. Obviously, the relationship between the blonde, blue-eyed white sister and the half-black younger half-sister. So race was a really important theme. Complexity of family relationships. So I have two older brothers. I think other people who have siblings, I don't know if they have complicated relations, but I definitely have that. And I wanted a vehicle to kind of highlight the complexities and intricacies of how all that works. And then that, last but not least, but the theme of performative allyship. Or in our generation, we called it hypocrisy, or maybe that's Brian's generation. Brian, I think we're in the same generation. Kurt, I think you're younger. But Brian, in our generation, we called it hypocrisy. Performative allyship sounds much nicer, I think. But I really wanted to highlight that. Having worked in the corporate world for 20 years, I've seen a lot of performative allyship in my life, and I didn't really care for it. And so now that I get to make movies, I get to shine a spotlight on that and kind of call that out. And so we found a way to kind of put that into the story and then devise a visual way to help convey that. And then, you go through this journey of these sisters kind of being at the house and being attacked and all that.
Great. So we have one question in the chat from Lori, who asked, is there going to be a horror LGBTQ film in the future from you?
There you go.
Just start combining genres.
Well, I mean, without going into too much, I don't think this is a spoiler, but one of the characters, there's a couple of LGBTQ characters in Half Sisters, so I don't know if I already get to cross that off my list, Lori.
Okay.
Lori, you let me know if I fulfill that requirement.
Does
Yeah.
anyone else have questions for Devin?
Yeah, I have a ton, Devin. I'm so interested in your whole story and everything up till now. But so as someone like I love documentary films. I think it's such a great way to, there's so many interesting stories to me and wonderful things to share. So how was it like going from documentary? I mean, like it's so cool, like we were saying, how you can do all these different things and not kind of pinhole yourself into one thing. So what kind of was that process like? Like was that really not scary? And I guess you had done shorts beforehand too, but like with just going from something like Who's on Top or documentary work and then kind of going into different genres, how does that play around for you?
I'm going to turn that question upside down a little bit, which is because I worked in the business world, people always say, oh, I love how you made the transition from business into something creative. And I always am very quick to correct them. And I always tell them, no, actually, I was always creative. I just actually did business for 20 years first. So, I mean, I'm not trying to be like arrogant or snide, but I think it's an important differentiation, which is there's like in some implicit assumptions about like how that question is asked. And I think when I correct people, like they either get really annoyed or they just like their mind is blown because they don't know what to say. But to answer your question, Cassidy, I actually never thought of myself as a documentary filmmaker. I've always really thought of myself as narrative. The reason why my first feature was doc was just because I thought it'd be cheaper to self-finance and be easier, in terms of like a crew size. I wouldn't necessarily need a writer. Wouldn't need to read scripts and kind of find a script and develop it and get the rights. And so I think regardless of the genre that I'm working in, I really want to prioritize storytelling. And I want to have the audience, like I want to provoke a reaction from the audience, hopefully, to get them to take action or maybe have a conversation. Maybe a conversation that challenges their preconceived notions about something. And hopefully like they enjoy it. Like that. I'm not making like experimental films where it's just like weird stuff. I admire people who do that. I just don't do that. I want to be a little bit more commercial. Actually, I want to be like a lot commercial, but I want to be like I aspire to do high concept storytelling films that are relatively mainstream. I don't know if there is a genre for that. I mean, like Chris Nolan would be like a great, like something that I aspire to do. Just something a little bit more. Yeah. Just
I would say Alice and Nighthawk was pretty experimental.
So the difference, the dance one was because I was commissioned, so I got money to do that. I was paid to do that, so I was like, okay, well, if you're paying me, so I guess, if you're willing to pay me, I'll almost do anything, to make a movie.
That's
but
the mantra of every creative in Hollywood, I think.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think, Cassidy, I want to answer your question with a question, which is, do you feel like you can't do different genres or like,
Great question. For me, like I think I've just always been so interested in, like, my background's environmental science and stuff, so I love the medium of filmmaking. And so I'm just finishing up my first short film, which is in post-production, and interviewed, several people and organizations that, yeah, I know, yay. So really excited about it. And I guess I had never even thought of like going outside of, like, this is so like kind of just what I think about doing and stuff. And the thought of trying to get like money for a film, like, this is more of like, a hobby, and hopefully I can put together something high quality that people can use and stuff. But like, I feel like with narrative filmmaking, that would be so much harder, other than like working with nonprofits and stuff, and like, how can I help you and stuff like that. So it's just so impressive to me to be able to be like, take that on, like, producer and everything like that, because oh my God, woof. That would be crazy.
Yeah, I don't recommend it.
Yeah, totally.
I think
Like, just don't.
you have to kind of be a glutton for punishment. And you have to really want to do it because, like you said, there aren't millions of people lying around waiting to give you money and to help you. It's quite the opposite, right? There's a lot of people saying no when you need them for something, and it's really hard to get the money. So, um, I think personally, I've always thrived, or I didn't thrive, but I wasn't as easily overwhelmed when someone told me no. It was, I think just like a joke, like, no is just the beginning of the negotiation.
I've
And
never heard that.
and I mean this like not in a like a illegal or like inappropriate way, but more in that, like, um, once you say no, it's like, well, now we could start engaging and be like, well, what do you want in return, or whatever, like, what could I do for you? And
Like,
who do I know that knows you? And so in a like a really respectful way. And um, I think the really, or the skill set that I've tried to develop as an indie filmmaker, besides telling the stories, which is also kind of the problem solving part. I think the business side really allowed me to sometimes take a break and look at a problem in a very different way. That had nothing to do with the film whatsoever, right? Uh, and yeah, but to kind of bring it back to what you're saying, Cassidy, without knowing what your short is about, I wanted to ask you: is it kind of about the story of the underdog, and then like they prevail in the end, hopefully?
yeah, I mean, it's about fish, talking about Shane Anderson. It's also about Chinook salmon and how they're returning to the basin, but they've been out of here for a century with the dams gone. And so it's just partnerships coming together, different organizations, and the science behind bringing a salmon back that hasn't been here for years and is basically extinct in the area. So yeah, I guess if you want to call the salmon an underdog.
It's the ultimate hero's journey, right? It's
Exactly.
and that's an amazing story, and I love that you're giving a voice to the salmon.
Oh, thanks, Devin. That's
I
so
can't,
nice to hear
yeah,
from
I
you.
can't,
I'm
I
so
can't wait
happy.
to watch it. Yeah,
We'll see for sure. And then I have one last question for you,
you
Devin. I
bet.
am just loving picking your brain. So when you have been working on the parole documentary and everything, how did that kind of shape up with like a team that you got? And were you able to actually, you say you like for people to walk away with something, like, were you able to kind of add in that touches in there for you too, even if it might have not have been kind of like an initial story you would have thought of?
Yeah, so knock on wood, I had any experience with people in the criminal justice system. But apparently like 1 in 20, I think it's really high in the States. Like people have been institutionalized or jailed in one way or another. It's like the numbers are shocking. So like when you go into a restaurant, I always look like, okay, so 1 in 20 people, like they've been in prison for something. Um, and so that's just a fact, right? Okay, so then like, well, what's the takeaway? Like, do you have biases because of that, or are you open to like having a conversation about why were they there in the first place? And so the film doesn't really talk about the justice system itself. It's a very narrow scope, and it's specific about people that are under state probation or parole who are looking to permanently move to another state. So every year there's about 250,000 people that go through this process. And so the organization that manages this and oversees it, they had an RFP, and I actually submitted, and so I was awarded the RFP, request for proposal. It's how government agencies hire outside people. But my company and I, we were awarded that RFP, and over the 2 years, came up with the treatment, came up with the identified people, came up with a plan of how we're going to shoot it over 9 weeks in the span of a year, and then we had post and all that stuff. So it was the producing part was relatively straightforward. It was I went to school for this. This is it's just like I could do it in my sleep. Here's a calendar. Here's when we need to do all that stuff. So it's just really negotiating with the different people to when we could do that. The hard part was really going in with an open mind, and like my only experience was like watching Shawshank Redemption or like Green Mile. It's pretty Night Court, I think. It's like pretty limited and completely unrealistic. Oh, Oz on HBO, if you ever watched that. Have filming in an actual prison in Southern Oregon, in Lakeview, Oregon. That was like a trip. It was not at all what I thought it would be. Since then, I actually got to visit another prison in Salem, and I still keep in touch with some of the people that's in the doc. These are normal people. Like, I don't agree with the crimes that they committed, that landed them there, but like, hey, they did their time and now they're out. They've done the thing to rehabilitate. Like, we really should give them a second chance, or in some cases, third or fourth or fifth chances. But like, as a country, we've accepted that, and so we really should honor that. And I have to be honest. Like, I've done some of the things that they did, but I didn't get arrested, and I didn't get put in jail, and I didn't. So like why do they have this thing? And I don't know. I feel for them. Some of them are also just super unlucky, I have to say. It's so sad. They're just in really bad situations and they can't get out of it for a whole bunch of reasons. And it was just so humbling to let them let me into their private worlds. Let them kind of open up and be vulnerable. It just like warms my heart every time that I could build that connection with somebody. And on top of that, with all these lights and cameras, right? It's just such a unique feeling that it's hard for me to articulate, but I just love it when I've been able to do that in docs or in different promo shoots. And it's something I really recommend to everybody to try and do.
I actually lived in Lakeview for a little while before I moved to Klamath, Devin. And while I was there, I discovered I had a distant relative who was also residing in Lakeview at that prison that you are referencing. So,
yeah.
Anyone who hasn't had a chance to talk yet, do you have a question?
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious what your process is like, whether it's documentary or narrative film. How do you choose the different projects that you decide to move forward on?
I mean, since the ones that I pay for myself, whatever I like, I guess I choose based on what I like. And what I think, I mean, obviously what I like, and then what I think that I can, how can I do it differently? How do I take a fresh approach? Not only do I not want to make the same film again, for myself. I don't want to make the same film that someone else already made. And so I often either bring in different techniques or just add something new. I don't know. I mean, depending on the specific story, right? I try to make it my own and leave my mark. So without like telling you all the specifics, but like The Road Home, for example, we have 6 people in it. They don't know each other, right? They live in separate states, different crimes, different genders and age groups. How do we connect all of them, right? Like otherwise they're just like different talking heads, they're out doing their thing. How do we visually connect them? So one thing I ended up doing was they all have the same similar choreography where they walk across the screen one way or another. And we do these batch cuts that connect all of them together. And so that was something that I really loved to inject into, like it's kind of a narrative technique to have blocking and to have these match cuts, but done in doc, right? And so because we're not restricted to, or at least because I'm not restricted to specific styles, I like the push and pull and the mixing between the genres and to help bring that cohesive visual identity. And maybe I'll submit The Road Home next year and then we could have a different conversation about that. But the quick answer is, yeah, if it sounds cool, then I'll do it. I have a sci-fi film I'm developing right now, which is super cool. And I'm doing that because I like it.
How do
And
you
did you-
do
did you-
sci-fi on a low budget, Devin? I'm so curious.
I'll let you know.
Yeah,
I haven't figured it out yet. So we haven't.
TBD.
Yeah, I have some ideas, but it's a complicated, high concept sci-fi story that takes place in the year 2101 in Shanghai, China. So it is not a cheap effort. Is George Takei in it? He is not. Not yet. Not yet. But that's a great idea, Lori.
Brian, did you have a question you wanted to ask?
Well, I'm speaking of science fiction. I'm still a little bit pissed off that Eve was never made into a series because you sucked me right in 5 minutes, and I'm like, when's the series coming out? And then, that was that. So, but
Good memory, Brian. Yeah.
Yeah, we loved it. We both loved it when we saw it at the festival. As far as I remember back in the days when Who's on Top was in the planning stages. So we haven't had a chance to see it yet. Is there some place where we can catch it streaming online somewhere?
Yeah. So it's on all the platforms, and I believe it's on a whole bunch of airlines too, public libraries, universities. I think it's streaming free right now on one of the AVOD streamers. If you just Google Who's on Top, you'll see like how to watch it.
Oh, the little, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, because I'd really like to see it. I'm really glad that it got made. I was really excited about that story, and so I'm excited to see the final product too.
Yeah. So since 2021, when the film was there at Klamath, we've gotten, we're a whole bunch of airlines now. We're actually broadcasting on PBS in North Carolina on June 22nd. And also PBS NC's streaming platform. So I've been pleasantly surprised,
Oh, wait. Oh, okay. You froze for a second there. Cool. Well, and also we appreciate that when we did show Who's on Top, you brought one of the individuals profiled in the film down to also talk to us.
Yeah.
Which was great being able to have that conversation on stage about it. So thank you for doing that as well.
Yeah, you bet.
Shauna, you haven't had a chance to chime in yet. Did you have a question for Devin? Or not?
Yeah,
Oh,
sorry,
okay,
it takes
go
me
ahead.
a second to find the mute button and unmute. Yeah, I mean, a couple just as he was talking, it's just really interesting to hear his thoughts and experiences. And so a couple of things that popped in my head were, like Devin, what's been the hardest film for you to make? Maybe not financially, because that's probably always a challenge, but for other reasons, what's been the hardest film for you to make?
Yeah, I just saw Lori's question in the chat. You mentioned, and this is related to your question, Shauna. Lori asked, you mentioned that need to know how to make actors feel secure and vulnerable for great storytelling. Would you provide some examples that you have found that helps with this? So I would answer, Shauna, your question with that the hardest times I've struggled is finding that connection with either the documentary subjects and or the narrative talent, and it's to develop a relationship with them where they will trust me and the team to let them be vulnerable and to feel like they're not acting, and that it could take a long time. It could take months, it could take years, it could take sometimes it doesn't take any time. Usually it takes a while. This is the long answer to your question, but for Who's on Top, we actually started with 6 people, only 4 in the film. So you could ask what happened to the other 2. Well, I'll tell you, the other 2, I could not connect with them. They could not be vulnerable, and they had to leave the project. Some at my insistence, or some at their own insistence.
Wow.
And it's tricky, right? I knew the films were much bigger than any of the individual people. It's way bigger than me. LGBTQ stories were there before I showed up. They're gonna still be here after I leave. And so I really wanted to tell it in the right way, and I wasn't gonna let silly things like bad storytelling get in the way. And so I went into the project knowing that and expecting that. And the best defense is to have a strong offense. So went in proactively with contingency plans. So we actually had auditions to cast the people in the documentary. I had people like submit headshots and write answers to essay questions, like before they even, like very early on. There was a multi-step process. The final interview was on camera. And it was like a screen test / final audition, and asked them questions, real questions. Some of the footage is in the final film, right? So we were only gonna spend about 9 months filming total. I couldn't. We had to find people who were really willing and ready to tell their stories, while wanting to commit to train to climb Mount Hood. So those are like it's very high standards, and there are a lot of people that said they wanted to do that, but they turned in like 2-word answers to these open-ended essay questions. So like that wasn't demonstrative of them really wanting to do that, right? Or on the in-person interview, asking them to tell about a conflict that they had to deal with, and they said they never had any conflicts. Like that wasn't going to be, you weren't going to be a very good doc subject. God bless you for not having any conflicts in your life as an LGBTQ person. I wish I didn't have any conflicts growing up, and you go that you didn't have any, but like I didn't think that would be a good story, and that wasn't the story I wanted to tell. And so anyway, so kind of coming up with a process to allow that. And then the last part I would say is just try to create the most positive environment that could allow for that, and know that not every time it'll work. So even in the road home, like you'll see some people stories are stronger than others. part of it, it's those people themselves, and part of it, I think I want to own a little bit of, my directorial influence, which is some people I was just able to connect with better, and hence I got better stories on camera versus other people that didn't have that. So hopefully that answered your question, both Lori and Shauna.
Well, and when you ask about challenges, my first thought is logistics of taking big expensive camera gear to the top of Mount Hood and hiking the tallest mountain around and dragging heavy camera gear to the top of it too. It is a whole other logistics matter.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not Jimmy Chin level yet. So our equipment was much smaller and not as expensive. It was expensive for sure, but not as expensive as them and not as many. So yeah, I think it definitely lucked out on the crew and the people, and finding people that want to do a crazy project like the ones I've done.
Mhm.
But I
Devin?
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I'll give you the title of the Jimmy Chin of Oregon after who's on Top Documentary and everything. You've earned that.
Oh my God. I don't deserve it, but I'll take
No,
it.
you do. Just accept
Thank
it.
you.
Well,
First, he's really
we-
good. He's really good looking, which I'm not as good
Well,
looking
I
as he
mean,
is.
nailed that too, Devin. You're set.
And we already
Thanks.
destroyed your old nickname of the Susan Lucci of Klamath Independent Film Festival. So we can no longer use that now that you're an award winner. So
Well, yeah, let's see how many more years it'll take for me to win another one. No, it's I mean, hopefully it's clear. I love making movies. I really love it. And it's such a privilege. I mean, you guys are filmmakers too, right? You know that. It's such a privilege to do what you love, and yeah, I hope I could do this forever.
anyone else have questions that they want to ask Devin? We still got a few minutes left. Jared, you got anything? Or
I'm curious what your camera gear was going to the top of Mountain Hood now that we were
That's a
talking
good
about it.
question.
Oh, I love the gear geek out question. Yeah. So at the time, my kit was a somewhat Canon person. I had a C500 and a C300 Mark One. And then I also had 5D Mark III for stills, but it also shoots 1080 video. So for the actual summit, for some of the training summits, we would take those two cameras up. For certain ones, we would rent a professional professional Canon camcorder. I can't remember the exact model, but it shot 4K, blah blah blah. The zoom lens was like the nicest professional camcorder that you could get. You could rent at the time that I could afford, I should say. And then and then for the final summit on Mount Hood, we rented two of those. So then it matched, and then I had the 5D Mark III. And then we also had a third camera person. He shot on a 1D something that shot 4K, and he had a zoom lens. He actually shoots with Jimmy Chin on all the big films, and it's a funny story. He actually reached out to me out of the blue because he's gay, and he's like, "Oh, I want to help," and I'm like, "Oh, really?" Yeah, please. And he's just great to work with. Sam Crossley, great to work with. But yeah, he's like, he knows all those guys, and it's amazing.
Great. So we got about 15 minutes left before we'll say goodnight to Devin. And again, thank you so much for your time. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. I'll give everyone a chance to get another question in, then we'll kind of do our last round of things and give Devin a chance to have the floor at the end. So if there's anyone else who has questions that they want to bring up at this time, please do so. I know, Wayne, you don't have a mic, but if you do have one, feel free to drop it in the chat, or Lori, Shauna, Cassidy, Jared, if there's something else you wanted to bring up.
Well, Wayne, Devin, I do have another slightly more personal question, and I'm just curious because it seems like you left a much stabler, like probably better paying, like kind of lifestyle before your so-called midlife crisis. And I'm just curious if you ever like regret that decision, or if you're ever like, man, and I'm sure, you know, we all have our low points and stuff, but just kind of curious about how that road
Yeah.
diverged after.
Yeah, so you're not supposed to ask people how much money they make.
I did not ask for a number.
That's a great question, Cassidy. So, for the first few years in film, like after school, I made no money. Or maybe I made like $500 one year because I like did this big project for like no money. And before I made way more than that for sure. I was very lucky actually. I had a condo in San Francisco that I sold, which helped, the proceeds from that helped pay for who's on top. So had I not had that, I wouldn't have been able to make the film. So for a long time it was very hard. So now it's been 8 years later, right? So there's been years where in my filmmaking career, where I made way more money actually since than I made before. And then of course there's years where I don't. So it's I think if all you cared about is making money, then filmmaking is definitely not the right career choice. Indie filmmaking is not the right career choice, at least in my opinion. If you value storytelling, if you value making an impact on the world, if you value, making the world better, like that's how I quantify what I do. And if you quantify those, then we're millionaires, right? We're the Jeff Bezos of the world. And I think at the end of the day, yes, you still need to pay rent, you still need to have food, and luckily, like I'm very privileged where I don't have issues with that. I'm not food insecure, I'm not houseless, and so I want to be very honest, like that's really
That's
I'm
such
speaking-
a beautiful answer though, Devin. Like I love your now like kind of following your passions and knowing what you were born to do and being like, this is making such a difference in the world and sharing these stories. That's what it's all about, right? At the end of the day. And that's just so awesome and fabulous and inspiring.
I mean, there were times I was like shaking, like walking to the office, like my old job, because like I hated my job so much. I was so unhappy, and the people there were horrible people. It was very, very toxic. And I would literally like my body would just collapse, me going in, like taking the elevator. And I think about that, and like I was paid okay. Like I wasn't, being paid millions of dollars, but like that's not my purpose in life, is to be unhappy at this okay job that I made okay money. Like I'd rather make less money and get to be a guest speaker and talk to other filmmakers, and it's not always less money. Sometimes like it's like way more money. It depending on how Half Sisters does, it could be a lot of money. Knock on wood. So
we'll do what we can to promote it too, for sure. But yeah, we're looking forward to all of that. And man, just as you're talking, I'm just thinking of so many people who I know like just hate their job and their work. And it's like, you only get one life. Like, what if you weren't here tomorrow? Like, thinking of those times when you're like, just shaking at your core with like, what are you doing? So I mean, you call it a midlife crisis, but man, it sounds like just like a blessing or like some revelation, and it's
Thank
awesome.
you.
So
Yeah,
Wait.
yeah, it is a blessing. There's way more to that story that I'm leaving
Oh,
out.
sure. We'll get into it at
Yeah,
this in
yeah,
martini bar
yeah,
in September.
yeah. It's just like not safe for work. So,
Few drinks in.
but no, it's to all the filmmakers, out there, past, present, future. Hey, keep doing it. Yeah, we're there's not that many of us, so if you feel called to do it, please do it.
Wow. Awesome. Man, that's great advice. We're gonna have to like post that on our social media or something. Just that clip of you saying that. That's beautiful. But yeah, I just wanted to say I know we're kind of getting there on time, but Devin, thank you again so much for joining us. And I hope in the future too, like you can join us again. And but yeah, I just am so thankful to you sharing your story and sharing your stories through films also and other people's stories as we've been talking about.
Thank
That's what it's
you.
all about.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
just such a joy to chat with you.
Thank you. I was going to say one last thing, which is so the distribution strategy for House Sisters has been pretty phenomenal. We're doing 20 theatrical screenings all over the country, which I was personally at 3 of them doing Q&As. And then we released digitally in July. And then in October, we will be on a premium cable channel in the US, which is amazing. And then we still have international distribution to go. So I'm super excited and yeah, so grateful for being able to kind of level up and grow each year along with everybody at Klamath Independent Film Festival. And I always try to challenge myself and make my next film better so then I could get programmed again. So it's a great symbiotic relationship.
Well,
Well, you're
I
crushing it.
I did want to touch on that briefly, Devin, and kind of get your opinions and thoughts on things. And I'm not fishing for compliments here. We do appreciate all your support you give us on social media and wearing the shirt and telling people about our festival. But your films have gone out to a lot of festivals and you've traveled around a lot for screenings. You are about as veteran of a status of any filmmakers that have been in the Klamath Independent Film Festival. Year after year, you make it in. So what keeps you coming back to Klamath? Is there something different about us, or is there something that you like that we do, or is there something we could do better to make our festival better?
Well, clearly Klamath is my favorite, right? I've said that many times. And I'll continue to say it. I love Klamath for people like you, Kurt, people like you, Cassidy. Brian, he's kind of disappeared the last few years, but I remember meeting him in 2017 and we've sort of kept in touch. What I would really love about Klamath is it's like the ultimate version of what a filmmaking community is, right? You're not there for the money, you're not there for the prestige, you're there for the love of film, the love of being around people that make films, right? And that is a true community, in my opinion, right? And each year it's gotten better and better. I remember the first year, I don't think we even had any food. I think I had to beg Jesse for like some bread and water. I'm not kidding. And like and Kurt, I've said this to you many times, but like, you guys are similarly to me challenging myself to make better films. Like I see people at the festival. You guys really push yourself and you challenge yourself and to elevate the festival experience, not just for the audiences, but for the filmmakers and for the sponsor partners. And I see that, and that's why I keep going back. And without going into like all the politics, I love that there's like this little pocket of curiosity, intellectual curiosity, and love for stories, in like this little town. that is kind of red, right? And generally like festivals are like in blue cities and blue counties, and not that you can't have festivals in red cities and counties, but like it's even more important for people that are like, it's even more important for me to go to a festival where the audience really haven't gotten other films, or they haven't had the opportunity to meet other filmmakers. So it's like I almost prioritize that a little bit more versus like a really big festival where I'll just get lost, and like it's a different crew every time, from a festival perspective or audiences. I remember that guy who passed away, who was in the audience.
David. Yeah, David.
David, yeah, the veteran.
Yes.
I was like, oh my God, I remember you. And like, you've been coming for years. And I was like, I just thought like that was so amazing. And, but it's like a
Yeah.
really long answer to why I love Klamath. But to answer your last question, what can you do better? I don't think you need me to tell you how you could be better. I think you're already asking yourselves those questions. And I hope you program half sisters so I have an excuse to come back. And yeah, I could see all the new stuff that you and everybody has been working on.
Man, awesome answer. Thank you, Devin. That was so great. You're just giving us all the sound bites tonight. Like we're gonna have such a great promo. It's gonna be all Devin.
You bet, yeah.
Cassidy and I do talk a lot in terms of how can we make the festival a good networking experience, and that's something we take a lot of pride in. Is that it's not a festival that is all about self-promotion and, hey, come check out my screening at this time, where a lot of festivals, the other places that I've gone to, I know you have as well, it's really like just hyping yourself and your screening, getting people to show up. Ours, what I take most pride in with KIF is that by the end of it, it feels like all the filmmakers are buddies by Sunday. Like everyone's gotten a chance to talk. Everyone's got a chance to know each other. Everyone's kind of like cheering everyone else's film. Is like, hey, your film was awesome. Your film was awesome. We should work on a film together. I don't want us to ever lose that vibe of casual, laid back, positive networking experience to meet the other filmmakers and get to experience what everyone else is doing and have a sense of everyone is friends by the end.
Sure, I've reached out to multiple people that I've met at the Klamath over the years. And I worked with them in different levels of capacity. And so I'm living proof of that sentiment, and it's something I personally believe in also. And yeah, no, it's great. Thank you for kind of setting that groundwork and the foundation to allow that. And I love taking advantage of that for sure.
Well, we have just a couple minutes left, and we always want to give everyone a chance to have a final word come in, or a quick last question, if at all possible. So, Lori, why don't you chime in? Do you have a final question or something that you want to say?
Sure. Yeah, no, I love that you guys asked that question, so Devin could be recorded answering it. But
Sure.
beautifully executed there. No, but I've really appreciated you taking the time, Devin, to talk, and it's been highly enjoyable to listen. One final question I would potentially have would be, you said that you really enjoy being a director. And I guess I'm wondering what experiences or skill sets has made you become a better director or become a successful director?
Not believing in people when they say I can't do something. I don't know how to say that in a nice way. I think it's a little bit more than self-confidence. I think I think being willing to put yourself out there and knowing that you're going to get rejections, but not letting that like handicap you. I don't know exactly how to say that, but I would say that. And the reason why I say it that way is because every single film that I go into, I'm learning stuff all the time, every day, right? Going into that prison in Lakeview, like that was like I've never done that. Like, how would I know, how to behave or how to film or how to ask questions, and so I think being willing to kind of put yourself in foreign situations and giving allowing yourself like that space to figure it out and develop comfort and hopefully find a way to problem solve wherever that situation that you're in. I don't know if that answers your question. It's like a kind of a generic answer, but I'm like in my mind, I'm thinking of some specific instances in which that was really important. And maybe like if we get to meet in person, like I could share some of those specific situations with you and kind of give you more context. But that's kind of like the quick answer.
Okay. Shauna did post something in the chat as well, just agreeing with your sentiments in regards to the festival. But Shauna, did you have a final question or final thought you want to share before we call it a night?
Evan, I gotta take off. I just wanted to thank you for your time.
Or Jared,
Thanks, Jared.
you want to say? I guess that was it, right?
I gotta go.
Okay.
Thanks, Jared.
Thank you.
Shauna?
Oh yeah, well, just I just really appreciate Devin. I really appreciate your bluntness about like the need for financial support and how it would be such a thrill to have a budget so you could do some of these projects that you want to do. And along with that is like you obviously have this really deep passion for filmmaking and no matter what it takes. And yeah, I really enjoyed hearing you talk today. So just want to say thank you for taking the time.
Oh, thanks, Shauna. Yeah. Yeah, I think Klamath is a great community. I mean, I don't live there, but I feel like I've lived there because I've been going for so many years. And Kurt's been like a really solid, consistent person with, for the city and for the festival. And, I see him sometimes in Portland when he's up here. And I think you guys have something really special. Yes, it's a small town, not a lot of people, but like there's a whole bunch of positive attributes to that too. And if people say otherwise, tell them to talk to me and I'll beat them up. It's Klamath is great, and I hope you get to keep doing and what you're doing, and can't wait to see you guys again.
Well, I know Wayne doesn't have a mic, but I'm sure he shares some positive sentiments from getting a chance to get to know you at past festivals. But the floor is yours, sir. If you have any final advice or any thoughts that you want to share.
Well, I was gonna say, last couple of times I was there was like that big fight in the bar. I've not seen a physical fist fight like happen in real life in front of me like in a really long time. So that was really amazing. I'm not saying if you could like choreograph that again, for, if I happen to get a chance to get down there.
You think we should do a take 2 on it and change the camera angle?
Why? And maybe you could have like maybe 2 women fight this time instead of 2 men. I don't know, to like
I must have missed that. Was that like the informal after event at the Pikey that a few filmmakers went to that we decided to skip out on?
It was not late, but it was at the Pikey. Yeah.
We a few of the filmmakers decided they wanted to get together and have kind of one little send-off thank you. And we both, Cassie and I, at that point, aside from basically being physically dead after months of work putting into the festival, we thought that it would be appropriate to have an event where just the filmmakers can do something just kind of on their own and just kind of have their own thing without us sort of supervising. So sorry it turned into a fight, but hopefully it was still an enjoyable send-off.
No, I freaking loved it. Like,
awesome.
Yeah, that's like what
Wild
filmmaking.
West.
That's what filmmaking is about. It's about these raw emotions that's unfiltered. And
at that point too, Cassie and I basically headed our separate ways and just like immediately fell asleep as soon as we got
this must have been the year before because I know Devin wasn't able to come last year, so it must have been the year before.
It was. I don't even think it was 21. It must have been 20.
Wow.
Or 19. No, 20 was COVID, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Although we were the only film festival in the entire country that had an in-theater audience in 2020 and 2021.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact year, but I just remember the fight and like it's forever burned into my memory that like Klamath
so awesome.
Independent Film Festival equals fist fight in person, like inches next to me.
Right.
I don't know if that should be a soundbite, but maybe.
Well, I just know by the time the festival comes around, we're always so enthusiastic for everyone who does come to visit, yourself included. But at the same time, Cassidy and I at that point are just barely running on fumes after about 6-7
bet.
months of planning. And
Kurt, I don't know if you saw like the filmmaker photo that like the professional photo that was taken, but literally it's so hilarious because like everyone looks like so happy and beautiful. And then like I zoomed in on my face and it's literally like
right.
form of face.
I've got like 1,000-pound bags under the eyes too going on. So yeah,
Totally.
I appreciate all of your kind words and sentiment about
Yeah.
the festival, but just know that that doesn't come naturally. There's a lot of work that goes into making it feel casual.
No, I was going to say my closing thought would be, on behalf of all the filmmakers and the audiences and the sponsors, I definitely want to go out of my way to thank, you guys, the unsung heroes, kind of working in the background and creating such an amazing experience for everybody. I know you do a lot that you don't get recognized for, so I want to be at least one of the few people that does kind of acknowledge that. So thank you for doing that.
Thanks, Devin. We appreciate
And I will
it.
just remind you that I don't have a vote on the selection committee to determine whether your film gets in or not.
Yeah, hey, no.
Okay. So when's that Zoom call with the selection committee? No. In all seriousness, like, it's great. And yeah.
Awesome.
So,
Thanks,
yeah.
Devin.
Well,
Thank you. Thanks, Cassidy.
Devin, thank you so much for the time. Thank you to everyone who joined us tonight. We appreciate it. I know we changed the dates. Normally we do this on third Thursdays, but there's a big giant community event in the summer that happens on third Thursdays, so we had to bump the date a little bit. So smaller group than we normally get, but an enthusiastic one nonetheless. So Devin, thank you so much for all of your film submissions, for being such an ardent supporter of Klamath Film, and for all of the just amazing conversation and advice you offered tonight. We appreciate it.
Yeah, Kurt, if it was just you and me, I'd be happy to talk to just you two. Yeah, you have that on tape, so yeah, call me on it. Yeah.
Keep doing what you do. I may hit you up from time to time to help out with
Yeah.
some other things, and we look
Of
forward to
course.
seeing your next project.
Of course.
And
Thank you, everyone.
And thank
Thanks,
you everyone
Devin.
for joining tonight. We'll do this again on the second Thursday of July. And then don't forget, July 15th is KCC Comic-Con. Klamath Film will have a film festival at that. August 12th is Puppeteers for Fears Cthulhu the Musical, one night only at Linkville Playhouse. Go get your tickets, limited seating. That should be amazing. And in August, Klamath Film will be doing family-friendly movies in the park. And the Klamath Independent Film Festival this year is September 22nd through the 24th. Thanks everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. All right. Bye.